History repeating? Thousands sadly remain under evacuation orders as multiple wildfires tear through Los Angeles. Mayoral candidate Spencer Pratt says Karen Bass has yet again left the city unprepared to fight them. In a series of X posts, Pratt says the LA Fire Department has 36 fewer firefighters than when the Palisades fire destroyed billions in private homes and businesses last year. Tom, I want to come to you first here because you live in the LA area now. I'm seeing a resurgence of Republicans, right, in the gubernatorial race. Steve Hilton making a charge. We see it here with Spencer Pratt. Is this good marketing, or is it actually a substantive change that you see happening?
I think as it relates to Pacific Palisades in LA, Spencer Pratt is running one of the greatest grassroots campaigns that we've ever seen in history. I live in Newport Beach. The bid for real estate has been unrelenting. Why? Because everyone is fleeing Los Angeles, coming down from Pacific Palisades who lost their house, and it just continued and continued and continued. Even real estate investors that are my clients that I play golf with, they've made their money investing in Los Angeles real estate. They will not do any deals outside of Orange County because of the lackluster leadership in that area. And I think people have had it. I think on both sides of the aisle, people have had it. They just want a safe, great place to live again. And you can feel it. It's palpable in California that Spencer Pratt is kind of like the shining light on a hill. Yeah. I mean, could we imagine
so turnaround Tom may have been picking the big turnaround for California by moving there. Do you think that's possible? We talk about marketing. We talk about politics. This is a policy failure. Can you overcome it with good marketing and get a Republican in there to sort
Well, is he just overcoming it with good marketing? Like Pratt, to me, his marketing is interesting, right? We've seen the videos, but I actually think the thing that's most persuasive about him is not the marketing, it's not the shiny stuff. It's just that he's speaking very clear, sensical ideas, right? Yeah. Like he's saying, he just always points out the contrast. He's good at this. Remember was it last week or this week, Karen Bass said that people on meth need new teeth? Like that was her thing, like teeth is success. And he just said, she's talking about teeth for people on meth. I'm talking about firefighters so your home doesn't burn down. And that's not crazy marketing. Yeah. That's just meeting people where they actually are, right? For too long, the left hasn't met people where they are. They try to pull people from where they are to crazy places. Like, let's do transgender for everybody, right? Or let's have a wide open border, all that stuff. And Pratt's like, no, I'm just coming where you are. Yeah. You want firefighters, that's what I'm going to do for you. We're not doing teeth for meth. And that, I think that is very powerful. It's very powerful.
Teeth for meth, not a good marketing line. You feel you had arms crossed, so there was something you objected to that he said in that.
You're reading the body language. No, I agree with you in that there was, a tragedy in California, and he's meeting people where they are by speaking common sense. What I fear is that common sense doesn't always work. And I bring it back here to New York City, where I was standing online to do something yesterday, and somebody behind me had a pin on, a button, and I looked at it, and it was like, a no sign, the circle with the thing through it, and there was an ice cube in the middle. And I was standing there like, oh, that's curious. And then I was like, oh, I get it. No ice, no, immigration control. And people like that walk around this city, and I've seen tote bags where they mock Trump and make fun of him. They're not even listening to what the issues are. Yeah. They're just so against Donald Trump and anybody that slightly resembles him. And Spencer Pratt does in a way, because he speaks common sense. He's speaking to people in a language they can understand. And he happens to be, although it was from another era, a villain of a reality show as well. And so there are aspects of that I think will just possibly turn some people in California off. I hope they act with sensibility, but sometimes when you're just so stuck in your position like that, it doesn't make a difference.
Yeah. I mean, you're a native Californian as well. I mean, what are you hearing? And I think this is a very tangible problem, right? 36 fewer, not less, firefighters that are there. This is obviously a priority. This is something that the LA mayor could solve very easily, doesn't need 9 approvals and a bureaucratic regime to get through. Do you think this changes? Or to Jackie's point, the populace is just like, well, we're tuned out. We're not even paying attention.
I have so much hope still for California. I'll end on a positive note. I'm from there, born and raised. I keep asking my family, like, why are you there? Like, we talk about taxes all the time, leave. I asked someone at the EntreLeadership Summit on Monday, he's paying $8 a gallon for diesel, and he is like getting crushed. And I said, well, then move. And he said, I had my bags packed. I had moving trucks. I was ready to go to Texas. He was like, I still couldn't pull the plug because I'm 2 hours from the beach, 2 hours from the mountain, and I still love my state, and I'm not ready to give up.
Yeah.
That's what California has going for it.
Yeah.
Any place I can ski in 2 hours, I could be at the beach in 2 hours, and I can be anywhere I want within 2 hours, and I could have wine.
Yeah.
So there is hope there for people who want to stay and fight and turn that state around. That's like the last thing that they've got. If California didn't have that, I'd be convinced that we would be lost. But there's people who are willing. Now, I was like, are the taxes worth it? He said, well, I wouldn't go that far. But people are still holding out hope.
It's an interesting opposite view, because I think it was a week or two we were talking about people when they actually left California and realized the burden of the taxes that got lifted. They're like, oh my goodness, I didn't know because I've been there for 30 years. But I think we have a soundbite that we're going to react to here.
No, I'd like to see him do well. He's a character. I don't know him. I assume he probably supports me. Does he support me? Yeah, I heard he does. I heard he's a big MAGA person. He's doing well.
So he's got the president's indirect endorsement. Does he support me? I'm not sure, but he's supporting him. He wants to see him do well. What do we make? I'm going to toss jump ball here.
Well, okay, so I'm sure he appreciates the president's support. I mean, the crazy thing for Pratt is he has to build support among people who maybe like President Trump, who maybe don't like President Trump. And I think Pratt just wants to say, I'm a guy who's focused on things that matter, and that's it. I'm not a politician by choice. I'm a politician by the force of bad politicians.
And when he says that, who does he sound like?
Yeah, he sounds like Trump, right?
Exactly like
they're trying to tar
Same
and feather him
grassroots
with
campaign.
that,
Same
I will say, the mayor came out and they're trying to label him as a MAGA Republican to smear him. And he had a great job where he said, like, I don't care about national politics. I'm running for Angelinos. Like, I'm running for, like, the
Angry
X million people
Angelinos is his
here
base.
who, like, don't want to get stabbed in the neck by the meth addict under the bridge who's like outside the school where my kids go. Like that is simple. I have zero political national ambitions. And he was crystal clear about that.
Yeah, I think it has sincerity what he's saying too, because he lost the home in the fire. It's a lot more powerful of a message when you've lived it alongside the people you're trying to talk to. But I'm curious, before we close up this topic here, Tom, from an investment standpoint, right? How do you see capital flowing to California if we see a red takeover of California? Maybe.
Oh. Gosh, I don't think we're going to see a red takeover. It's going to be tougher at the state level. It's the fourth largest economy in the world. They've worked 24/7 to try to destroy it. They've partially succeeded, but it's very hard to kill. We call it the weather tax. It's totally worth it. I went out there with bias for my daughter swimming in water polo. I love it out there. I hope it stays. I hope the rest of the state becomes as great as Orange County is. I hope he can turn around LA. And there is hope because in California, the only chance a Republican has to get elected is if they were formerly an actor. So Pratt's got a shot, and
oh man,
we're looking.
So
at
I guess you're out. We can't rely on you to be a future politician in California.
No, not at all.
Well, hey man, we always love relying on you here for your stock market insights. Turnaround Tom, always a pleasure to have you here.
So
I want to thank you all for being with us for the hour. Coming up.